JC has decided we're removing wave dashing from Highlander.
Oh, you can't do this to me. I've played Highlander for 80 reps. You wanna know how much I've sacrificed? You made it. Welcome back, yeah, BEA, beautiful soul, SolidSol here, and today's video, pretty freaking crazy the past couple of days, and I think I've made a pretty good judgment call on where he stands on the meta right now. There's a few issues I want to talk about when it comes to the character. I want to talk about what I think is great, what I think is bad, and overall, you know, my impressions of the hero. Lots to say in this video, a lot to say, and if you guys have your own opinions, please be sure to let me know down in the comments, because I'm sure there's a few people that don't like it, and there's also a lot of people that do like it. So let's just get down and dirty. I will tell you this. Okay, I've had Rep 80 Hitokiri mains tell me that they want to main him. Okay, what does that tell you? I'll tell you what it tells you. Highlander is a little bit of a brain rot character right now, and it's good and bad at the same time. So I totally understand where both conversations are going, but I've been doing incredibly well with him. Yesterday, I was streaming and I felt like super asleep. I felt like I was in a coma, food coma for like 5 hours, and my brain activity was non-existent, which is most of the time, and the For Honor player in general. And therefore, with no brain activity whatsoever, I played, you know, characters like Hitokiri, and I also played Highlander, and that says quite a bit. I did really well with him. I felt even though I was Sleepy Joe, Highlander still rocked people's world. And it's not just because he's a new rework right now, that might be a little bit of it, but it's just that his chain offense is so damn good and his teamfight capabilities are insane, okay? So let's just go over what I really like about the character, and then the next section will be what I think needs adjustments, okay? So the first thing is going to be every guard break I get a freaking top heavy that's 24 damage. It is so satisfying. Back in the day, okay, back in the olden days of Highlander, when he didn't really have good chain pressure or openers, the only good chain pressure he had was 400ms light attacks, which were really good, and he still keeps those. He actually gets an improved 400ms top offensive stance light, but being able to feint and go back to neutral in defensive form and go for a guard break, landing a heavy instead of needing just a wall, it's just so powerful, given the fact that his kick is just feintable and you can do so much with it. You don't even have to go back to defensive form. You can stay in offensive stance, and the animation looks so smooth. I think this is one of the cleanest looking animations for Highlander, because Highlander has had some weird janky animations, but they adjusted that, so that's great. The kick mix-up is so freaking good when it comes to chain pressure, okay? There's a ton of options from it in team fights, especially fanning it, go into a dodge attack afterwards. You don't have to go back to neutral to use your dodge attack. You just go into your offensive stance dodge attack, just like Shaolin. It makes him pretty freaking nimble for being such a big guy. I mean, he's big wide, but he's not that big when it comes to the verticality. But the dodge attack is going to be pretty freaking insane. It could be a little bit oppressive, but I don't think it's too much of an issue at the moment, especially with Varangian Guard existing in full block characters. That could be a discussion for another time. The crushing counter whiffs, where he's not able to backlight anymore, is incredibly fair. I love that change. Makes it so that you can't rely on that crutch anymore. And the thing is that he doesn't have a real opener, you know, conventional opener, where you can just bash and go to 500ms bash, I just 466 bash, or just use an unblockable from neutral, right? Like an Afira bash that's feintable, or a Gladiator toe stab. That doesn't exist for Highlander. Highlander strictly relies on chain pressures, which is immensely a little bit oppressive, in my honest opinion. It kind of feels like Hitokiri, where you don't have actual offense when it comes to neutral. Except for Hitokiri, you have variable timed heavies, which is really hard to parry most of the time. You have to be really focused. But with that being said, that means that you have to rely on good neutral game. You can't just rely on throwing light attacks, which are going to get parried, or most importantly, blocked. And one thing that really helps him in the neutral is being able to feint that zone attack. It's actually, I think it's better than feinting a normal heavy attack, which you can go into defensive stance after feigning it, but a lot of people can just light check you. And of course, that's going to be scary too, because if he just lets that fly, it's going to be a lot of damage for you. 27 damage heavy on side heavy. But the zone feint is very clean. Go into your 400ms light attacks to check them. It's super duper good. A lot of people are going to be using this to get into their offensive stance and they can also use it to trade with their zone attack. The zone attack has hyper armor. All the attacks have hyper armor. He becomes a Beyblade machine. It's super duper good. I'm really excited to use him more because his chain pressure is so fun. It's actually really good in ganks. His forward caber toss is so ridiculous, man. It's fast, has good tracking, and of course you get 26 damage, and it is a pin, so your teammate that throws a heavy on top, it's not damage reduced. It might have to be damage reduced, in my opinion, because this is freaking insane. It's fast. From neutral, people aren't going to expect it. I mean, people are going to expect it, because as soon as you see that forward dodge movement, the bash, it's going to be freaking easy to dodge. You can punish with the guard break, which is nice, but if you mix it up, there's a pseudo mix-up where if you spam the 400ms light attacks and people try to dodge it instead of parrying or something, you can do that with the caber toss and just fuck them up, man. You can grab them for 26 damage from neutral, because the 400ms light attacks, they're gonna add up. 2 of them, that's basically already a light attack and close to a heavy attack, so you have to actually be pretty focused on that, otherwise you're just gonna eat it. He is definitely more of a spammy character, so the neutral game being pretty much non-existent besides feinting and going for parries and baiting people out, I think it's perfectly fine for having such a strong chain pressure. And I think people who are not enjoying the neutral game need to focus on playing more defensively until you get into your chain pressure. That's where his strong kit lies, and that's the skill expression of the game, the skill expression of the character, actually, because the baits have been the most fun part about Highlander, where you're dodging, weaving in and out, and punishing people to try to attack you. That's super fun to do, but now you can bait people out and go for parries. That's gonna be, you're gonna be able to tell a good Highlander from a bad Highlander. That's what they're gonna do, because beforehand there wasn't that much of a reason to try to light check him out of offensive stance besides trying to interrupt his freaking offensive stance light attacks. But now that there's actual chain pressure, there is more reason and more incentive to try to light check him and interrupt him on his mix-ups, because if people aren't doing that, he can just reign free in chain pressure the entire time. Kick to caber was practically useless with anyone who had a dodge attack. People who would suffer against this would be characters like Lawbringer, who have a dodge bash, also Warden. The kick to caber would catch those characters, but of course if you're being like super duper optimal, you would just dodge roll. In 4v4, that's what people do all the time. You never use kick to caber, and any good player would just basically cancel your entire mix-up. And the heavy unblockable attack into kick mix-up doesn't track people external dodge away from you, so it's also kind of pointless. To be fair, it's also redundant now since he has the kick feint mix-up. You don't really want to be using that extra stamina to go into heavy unblockable kick feint and to go for a guard break anymore. You might as well just go for unblockable heavy into guard break, or just a kick feint and just go for the guard break after that. So it kind of makes a few things redundant, but overall the character itself has really good chain pressure and viability when it comes to the game. Not every character needs neutral pressure as long as they have good chain pressure, and Highlander does. His tracking on his hitboxes, on his zone attacks, his heavy attacks, they're all so good. They're incredibly good. Hitboxes just has good forward momentum, a really good 360-degree hitbox, and you have to respect him in team fights. You really do. Other than that, though, man, this character, I feel like it's a pretty damn good rework. The character itself still keeps some pretty unique animations when it comes to the caber toss, the kick animation, and when you're feigning stuff, it's a smooth experience. It feels like I'm going into offensive stance really buttery smooth, man. I could take up some popcorn and rub Highlander all over it, and it would it just taste so damn good. The one thing I had an issue with Highlander beforehand was that he felt pretty clunky to use. Even though you had wave dash, you can dodge around and whatnot, it felt a little bit clunky to use him when it came to using his offensive stance. The offensive stance now, and in conjunction with the defensive form, it feels like it flows really well, and I really enjoy playing him a lot more. Yeah, it's much easier to use him, but against like good players, you didn't want to be using a weak Highlander anyways. You wanted to have some anti-ganking potential, and you can actually do that with new Highlander. You couldn't do that beforehand. It was really frustrating to be left in a 1v2 or a 1v3, and there was just no way you could deal reliable damage because people would just roll away from you. Now you can just go into a kick mix-up once you get a light parry, heavy parry, or just go into Celtic Curse and get some nice damage in. The frustrations of this character are all gone, except for a few things of which I will be going over shortly. So that's basically all of the good things that I really enjoy about the character. Now, if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments, but I'd say the overall aspect of this character when it comes to just having viable offense is good, but when it comes to talking about his bad things, there could be a few things that we could argue about. So one of the first things I'd like to point out is that when you get a guard break, if you delay your heavy attack ever so slightly, the enemy can block it and parry it. So they really need to adjust the timings on that. In ganking situations, or any situation whatsoever in 4v4, when you guard break someone, sometimes you don't want to throw out a heavy right away. Many reasons for that, such as if your teammate is not completely ready to throw their heavy attack so you can finish up the gank. Another reason is because you want to see if the opponent that you're getting ganked by is going to interrupt you or attack you. Those specific reasons, you want to determine if you want to throw a zone, a light attack, or just don't do anything so that they can hit you and you can gain a revenge tag, etc, etc. Many reasons on different variables when it comes to delaying and guaranteeing that heavy attack, because most characters, actually every single character except for Highlander, can do this. And so once they're able to fix that bug and adjust that ever so slightly, I don't know when they're going to be able to do it. Obviously this is not a huge problem, but it is an issue that needs to be corrected, because landing that 24 damage heavy and waiting for your teammate to land it, it'll throw you off. You'll have to change your playstyle when it comes to actually confirming certain attacks. So fixing that would be very helpful for his entire mix-up. Basically, you don't want to be waiting anymore. You want to do it ASAP, and that'll be something that they could probably fix in a hotfix or something like that. The next thing is that you're still knocked out of offensive stance sometimes, especially when you're throwing like offensive stance light attacks. Those 4MS light attacks, you're throwing them out, swapping different sides, and you swap to a different side. It'll sometimes just throw out a normal neutral light attack, and most of the time, I don't think people are going to be parrying that anyways. They'll be just like, oh, I'm getting bombarded by light attacks, and then just randomly a normal 5MS light comes out. They're not going to be trying to parry that, because you're going to be parrying those 4MS light attacks on reads, not reactions. At least the 99% of the player base is going to be doing it. I see top level players who get hit by this a lot too. So it is a viable move to be spamming and to be using on people who are trying to interrupt you all the time. Very good tool, but that bug, it's existed for Highlander for a very long time. I thought they fixed it beforehand a while ago, like maybe a year ago, but I guess it still exists, which is really odd. That is an issue that will need to be adjusted, just like Centurion's punch mix-up that also has a huge problem getting double dodged, and the bug where you're able to get a punch after a knee follow-up. So that's a bit of a problem that Ubisoft will have to take maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or so to fix. However, that's going to be something that we can talk about later. The next thing I want to talk about is the forward caber toss. I think this is way too strong. Way too strong. First of all, they already have a caber toss, okay? If you have a caber toss for neutral and offensive stance, it's slower, sure, but I don't think they needed to add a faster one. If you guys remember in the first testing grounds that Highlander did have, he had it available on a side dodge with the offensive stance, and that was a freaking crazy mix-up. It was fast, pretty good tracking, and you can do it from a side dodge and a forward dodge. So there's so much utility when it comes to that. It was basically a war crime to add that into his kit. I kid you not. And now that you're able to use this on a forward dodge in conjunction with the 4MS line attacks, well, people will be trying to dodge on read. It's gonna be freaking insane. It's insane. Have you seen the ganks in my stream? The ganks in general? I only performed the easy ones with Highlander, 2 Highlanders, or just any character that land a heavy attack. You go into your offensive stance and go into your caber toss, because afterwards it is a pin, and that means there's no damage reduction on both your guys' heavies. And with the 26 damage heavy attack that Highlander has on his offensive stance, my god, dude, you're absolutely gonna be deleting HP. The good thing is that it doesn't revenge lock, which is fantastic, but it's just so good and it has so much utility overall. Personally, I think it should just get removed. It should just get removed because there's already a caber toss in his offensive stance. I don't want him to have everything. He has everything. He has everything in offensive stance. He has a dodge attack, which keeps him in offensive stance. You can cancel and go into a crushing counter light attack if you wanted to and external that puppy. You also have a kick mix-up that is feintable. You have the caber also tracks dodge rollers now, which is pretty freaking sick. And then of course you have the 4MS light attacks, the unblockable, and it's just so much things that this character has. And I really don't see the need to add another ganking tool that makes him super freaking egregious to fight against. I think this is just another way to dumb down the character, and he definitely is dumber, I'll tell you that much. He is definitely dumber. You can play this character brain rot, and anybody, all those hate to carry players, the Varangian players, they're gonna pick up this character, I promise you. So all in all, it kinda makes the normal caber toss from neutral, the slow one, pretty pointless. I just don't know. If they wanted to keep the forward dodge one, I guess they could, but why not just remove the old one then? You know, why keep it there? It's pretty pointless to have. It's the same thing as when they removed Orochi's heavy deflect. It's like, why'd you do that? But then you didn't remove the actual pointless move on Highlander, the character. But they removed Orochi's deflect, which had zero. I don't think it had any real issues that would mess around with Orochi's new moveset. You know, his rework. The deflect change got changed to light input, which was always there in the first place, but they just gave him the guaranteed light attack follow-up. I don't think, maybe they didn't know how to code the guaranteed light attack follow-up on the heavy attack perchance, because it was an entirely new animation, but that's an entirely different move, and I don't know why they removed it. You know, it's pretty sad stuff in my opinion. The last thing that Highlander has a pretty big issue on is that when you do feint your kick, you sometimes let a raw heavy attack fly. Either the timings are way too strict and not that lenient and they have to readjust it, or that it's a bug, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the former. Probably the same type of issue as doing Centurion's Punch or Peacekeeper's triple kidney stabs, and they gotta look into that. But sometimes this works out for you because you are able to trade with someone who does a dodge attack that tries to kick when you try to kick them, and that's a pretty good way to make it so that they don't actually just freaking just dodge attack you 24/7. But even so, you can just parry them, or more importantly, you can get someone who's trying to external dodge attack you, because the hitboxes on this character are pretty freaking wild if you ask me. So that's a pretty good mix-up to do, but I just like to be able to control that and not be able to do that accidentally, because it's happened quite a few times. And you know what, I think about I have a pretty good success rate of actually hitting people who do that, and it's been crazy reads, but I just want more consistency with that move, okay? Be able to cancel it and go into a heavy attack right afterwards. And I'm pretty sure this was an issue on the previous testing grounds. I'm pretty sure it was an issue. Another really important thing about Highlander is that for his top heavy, they did speed it up to, I believe, 800 ms. And with that 800 ms, you're able to guarantee it on a guard break, but they still kept the hyper armor startup, and it's about, I believe, 700 ms. And when you compare it to a character that also has a heavy attack, that also has hyper armor, like Warlords, which is also 800 ms, the hyper armor startup is at 500. So it comes out like super duper late and basically non-existent. He still has it, and personally, I don't think he really needs it. He doesn't need the hyper armor on his top heavy. His side heavy is the one where you want the hyper armor, because that's where he's gonna get like a really good punish on a light parry and possibly hit other enemies that are on the whatever side you're throwing the attack on. So they probably have to adjust that hyper armor if they wanted to keep it. Personally, I don't think he needs it, but if they're going to keep it, it's gonna have to be around like 500, 600 ms, and that should be an easy fix for them. And then really the last thing is that I kind of want them to change the animation of his offensive stance dodge attack and make it look like he's not ice skating, because it does look like he's freaking ice skating, which is pretty freaking silly. His dodge attack is, he just like slides across the battlefield, and it looks really silly. I think For Honor should really prioritize not realistic looking animations, but animations that look clean. And I think this is the greatest strength of this game. It's not the balance, because no game is ever balanced like perfectly, but I think the animation is what draws most people to For Honor, not the core combat of a competitive game itself. And that's all I really have for my annoyances with the character, the adjustments that I think it needs. If you guys have any other complaints that is reasonable, or if you want to rant about how you miss old Highlander's wave dashing, I totally understand. But you know, that's what I would adjust to his kit at this moment, at least by playing him quite a few times already, especially during stream. Super easy character to play. The question is he an actual brain rot character? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, he is. He has tons of variability with his chain offense, and when you include a dodge attack that has hyper armor follow-up, or a zone that has hyper armor on everything with really big hitboxes, it becomes very easy to play the game. And that can be a good thing to an extent. Making a character super duper safe is it's gonna be hard for players that are pretty uncoordinated in solo queue matchmaking, and if you want to play the game at a really high level, you definitely want to be stacking all the damn time, and that's not always fun. Not all of us have the opportunity or the luxury to be constantly playing with friends and hooking up with them. Not hooking up, but to be, you know, hitting them up and be like, yo, you want to play some games so we don't get stuck in solo queue with random teammates that don't know what they're doing? We're going to scrims, find a Discord, and play with the better players. You know, that's just how it is, unfortunately. And I think Highlander, there's a lot of things you can do against him, especially from neutral, but good Highlander from neutral is also really hard to fight too. The chain pressure is insane, and there's just a lot of hyper armor in this character. I told you guys before that hyper armor makes a character very dumb, but it makes it valuable in team fights and 1v1s because you can just no-brain it. It's a crutch. Hyper armor is a crutch. It always has been. And then for a game like For Honor, where you have hyper armor to trade in big team fights, it's going to be devastating. It really is devastating to people who don't have hyper armor and people who try to deflect and stuff, because Peacekeepers, they don't break through hyper armor. Characters like Shaman can negate certain hyper armor things because they have dodge cancels after the hyper armor. I mean, after their deflects, but hyper armor always makes a character a little bit more dumb. At least beforehand, Highlander was a little bit more skill based with the hyper armor. Besides the second light attack that had hyper armor, that was pretty brain dead. And I'm glad he doesn't have it anymore, which is great. But you could continue a zone attack after the heavy finisher. Now you can do it and continue to go into your mix-up, which is pretty crazy. But I think one thing to make it so that the character's not so brain dead is to remove that forward dodge bash. He doesn't need it. It's 600 MS, I believe, and I think it's just too good. You should probably make it much slower, which could be a possibility. I mean, having the access to like a forward dodge caber toss that's more like slow, I think that'd be a good idea too. You should probably just remove it and then keep the caber toss because he still has that gank. There are some crazy ganks. I'm probably not going to show you guys. Might show you guys at a future video. But there are some nasty ganks that I know for sure exist with the Highlander rework now. And I think he's going to be one of the best characters in the game at the moment, okay? Like, one of the best. Even though he doesn't have the best neutral pressure like Hitakiri, they're both insane because of their chain pressure and their hyper armor. So look out for that. You guys have to learn the matchup. You guys will need to lab this character. You have to play him and try to figure out what he can and can't do. And there's a lot of things that he can do, unfortunately. But there are a few things you can do to stop him going to offensive form and be safe when it comes to fighting him. All about positioning, all about game knowledge. So do your best. I'm trying to learn the character instead of like trying to say that this character is impossible to beat, because he is possible to beat. Just pick an S tier character like yourself. Just pick an S tier character. You'll be totally fine. Or just pick Highlander. No, I'm mostly joking about that. But he is a strong character, but you can definitely beat him. You definitely need to know the matchup and understand how the game works, especially in 4v4. Solo queue gaming, it's pretty hard, but you need to understand that you're not going to win every single game, and you're not going to make the best reads every single game either. So don't beat yourself up for losing a couple of games here and there. You know, you get the dub sometimes, get the L, but you gotta get washed before you get clean. All right, that's the fact of the matter here. Fact of the matter. And that's pretty much my entire thought process about the Highlander rework. Do I like it? Yes, I do. Do I like that wave dashing has been removed? Not necessarily. I think they could have kept it in and then not given him so much extra things. But you know, Ubisoft wants to make things. I think the character is still really unique, and I really like that aspect about it. The character feels unique still, and I'm glad they tried to keep it unique, but there's just a few glaring issues that need to be adjusted. And overall, I think the character would be very good, and it would be in a really good state if he didn't have certain oppressive things when it comes to his kid. And I hope that I'm honestly pretty happy with the results. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think he really needs hyper armor on all of his own attacks. Could just be normal and it'd make him a little bit more punishable instead of just brain dead throwing attacks willy-nilly. Of course, you're going to lose some of the trades, but it also makes you really safe too. I know some Highlander mains aren't, but overall I think this has been a good change for the character. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, what you guys like changed, if you guys agree with my analysis, and what's the best character to rework at this moment. You know, what is the best character? It's Lawbringer and Conqueror, okay? Those characters. Not Nusha. I mean, Nusha definitely needs an adjustment, but those characters, man, they got scuffed. That's all I have to say, boys. Very sad for my Conqueror mains out there and my Lawbringer mains. I'm one of you guys, I understand, and it's painful shit out there. But the great thing is that Conqueror got a new torso piece that looks freaking shagadelic, baby. I freaking love it. It is the best thing ever. So we'll be seeing more Conqueror out there just because of the new armor set. That'll be it for the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. See you guys in the battlefield. A really fun streaming. Check out the stream on YouTube and on Twitch. I do stream like every single Monday, and sometimes I'll be streaming Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So see you guys there. Bye-bye. See you later.